Today on In Focus, with award-winning host Yesenia Taveras, right now online is special guest Chef Danny Bullock on 𝐂𝐻𝐿TN 22. Hello, welcome to In Focus. I'm your host, Yesenia Taveras, and joining us today is Chef Danny Bullock, who is an international private chef with more than 10 years of hotel and restaurant experience. His recent work includes working in Israel. He's a graduate from Brandywine High School. That's right here in Wilmington, Delaware. And he's on his way to Food Network. He joins us today to talk all things about Danny and his journey. Welcome to the show, Danny.
Hey, Yesenia. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Great. Doing wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity to have you on In Focus.
Anytime. Let's do it.
Definitely. So one thing we love to do is get to know the person from their upbringing, their roots, what really makes them who they are today. So talk to us a little bit about where you were born and raised and what you're representing.
Well, I was born in 1990 in Rochester, New York. We moved to Wilmington, Delaware in 1992. Spent about 8 years there. Then my father, the Reverend Christopher Allen Bullock, got called to a historic church in Chicago. Then from there, that part of my life kind of molded me and kind of brought out all my artistic things that I was wanted to get creative with, and things that sparked my interest in music and artistry and sports and everything like that, everything that we have today.
And talk to us a little about being exposed to those three different cities. So from Rochester, New York to Chicago, Illinois to Wilmington, Delaware. Did you get anything from those three cities? Any challenges, hardships?
I say it was definitely a culture change from Rochester to Chicago, and Wilmington and Rochester being relatively small, then packing up and moving to a big city. So it was I kind of took it as a blessing, and I knew it could only help me, being around like-minded people like me, a bigger city that has so much culture and music and fashion and history and things like that, which, like I mentioned before, helped me mold my personality and kind of put me in the mind frame where I can do anything I put my mind to, because I was around a lot of people that had the same dreams and ambition and aspirations as me.
Yes, and that's what we want to get into. When did this all start for you? So from a very young, early age, you fell in love with music and cooking. So talk to us a little bit about how those two worlds intertwined with each other at such a young age.
Okay, well, I have a very, very big family. So my mother and father, they both have at least 7 or 8 plus siblings. So I have a lot of cousins, a lot of aunts, a lot of uncles, and a lot of, close friends that are basically relatives too. So, every Sunday, after church and before church, it was kind of like the Grammys or the Super Bowl or something. It was always 35, 40 people plus, at my house, and we're singing, we're cooking, we're dancing, we're laughing, and wonderful fellowship. So unconsciously, I kind of developed a lot of my culinary skills at a younger age, helping my mom on Sunday dinners. She put me to work at a young age. I was her little prep cook. She made me grate cheese for the macaroni and cheese. She made me peel all the sweet potatoes, all the regular potatoes, and last but not least, the collard green. I'm the collard green cleaning specialist now. She was very particular about how she wanted them done, and me being young and naive, I tried to, take shortcuts and not do it the way she asked me to, and I kind of got a little in trouble for that. But now in my older years, I see why she wanted things done the right way, because it does affect the flavor and the texture of those collard greens. So big shout out to my mom for being patient with me, because it's a very tedious and tedious task to overcome. But I think I got through it.
And so what I'm hearing with mom's inspiration is that at a very young age, you were already a prep cook, something that most adults didn't reach until their adult life when they get into culinary school. So talk to us about some of your first dishes that you started cooking.
So So we call in my family, it's called the soul food holy trinity. So you have, you know, your glazed sweet potatoes or candy yams. Like I said, you got your collard greens with your smoked turkey leg meat, kind of braised and tender and very succulent, running all through those collard greens. Fried chicken, baked chicken, a fried catfish, cast iron cornbread. You know, Kool-Aid, sweet tea, red beans and rice, lima beans. Stop me, or we can go all day with this, but just a plethora and of dishes that I still use today, that I still love cooking today, that I still call my mom and grandmother for on recipes and, you know, things like that that I still incorporate in my chef uh, cuisine, that my own personal cuisine that I still prepare today.
It's so great to hear where your beginning started. And for me, I smile so big because I love food. So as
That's
you're
good.
talking, I'm like, it sounds so good. I can only imagine.
Absolutely.
So, Chef Danny, talk to us about attending Brandywine High School. You went there, you graduated from there,
Mhm.
but you still incorporated cooking into your lifestyle as a teenager. And for most teens, they're focused on other things as opposed to being in the kitchen. But
Mhm.
this really is who you are. So, talk to us about how you were able to maintain that lifestyle.
Um, well, like I said, it was, looking back on it, I was juggling a lot with sports and church and my love for the culinary arts. So I just, you know, I've always been one to compartmentalize a lot of things, take on a lot of things. 'Cause I feel like I can balance out a lot of things. So my parents, they were good multitaskers. My dad, I've always seen him busy, busy. My brother, he was busy, busy. My mom was busy, busy. So we always had a lot of things to be involved with to keep us out of trouble and keep us, you know, busy and active. So it was kind of hard at first because I didn't know which one I liked better, more one than the other. So, you know, Sundays I would play drums, and I'll be like, oh, this is what I want to do. Then I'll go to high school when I went back to school and home economics. Okay, this is what I want to do. Or and the next day I would go be in a school play. Okay, that's what I want to do. So it was just one thing after another. So I was just like, you know what? Until one becomes obvious, I'll just do all three and just keep my mind running and see how creative I can get. Because it all stems from the same kind of inspiration and motivation and creativity. I just put it in different categories. So it was fun. It still is a lot of fun.
And determination is what you held on to. You ended up continuing this lifestyle into
Yeah.
college, but you decided to go back to Chicago. So, talk to us about that decision in your life and what kind of impact that made into your culinary skills.
I knew that although Delaware is a very, very good food city, I wanted the big lights and the big, you know, the big lights and cameras and things like that. So with me being, you know, from Chicago, I still had a lot of friends and family there. After my 1 year tenure at Delaware Tech, I kind of saw myself following the same paths as a lot of successful chefs in Delaware did. Okay, you went to Del Tech, then you go to the country club or you go to the hotel, then you just stay there for 40 years and that's it, which is fine. But I knew I wanted, you know, my kind of dreams and ambition kind of, you know, surpass that ceiling. So I knew Chicago was an up and up foodie town coming up, and I wanted to contribute to that, um, you know, that speed bump to kind of elevate that city. So I enrolled myself into Kendall College, School of Culinary Arts in Chicago. Graduated with my degree in personal chef in catering, with a minor in business and another minor in business ethics. So, because I always wanted to start my own business, and that school had a tailor-made program for everything I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be a personal chef for athletes and actors and movie stars and CEOs and all those things, and that was the only school that had a curriculum predicated to what I actually wanted to learn. So they taught me how to set up an LLC. They taught me how to accounting. They taught me how to, you know, profit margins and things that can make me money. And I was, I was first in line for every class. I'm more of on the art side. Kind of the academics kind of wasn't my thing because I was always focus on, the artistic stuff. But I really bought into that program. A lot of my professors I still talk to today, they were former business owners or current business owners at that time. So what they were teaching was very, very relatable to me. And, I just bought in, and I ended up being on Dean's list. I ended up skipping a year of curriculum because all my credits were transferable. So I was able to complete the program in a year instead of 3. So, yeah.
And that's wonderful to hear, because Chicago is a very competitive city, and you decided to dive in with the wolves as opposed to being the big fish in a small city.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I knew it would bring the best out of me. That old expression, steel sharpen steel. That was definitely what I was looking for. And a lot of my friends that I went to culinary school with, we moved on to do good things. A lot of my chefs are overseas. A lot of my chef friends are executive chefs at hotels. They have their own restaurants, their own food trucks, their own pop up, type of thing that they're doing all over the world. So that was definitely a little bit of a risk, kind of withdrawing myself from Delaware Tech without my parents knowing, and I enrolled myself in the Kendall Culinary Arts program. Yeah, but it all worked out. So anybody listening, bet on yourself if you're confident, but have a plan to execute that leap of faith that you want to go on. So that's what I did. And if that ambition kind of resonates with you, just go for it.
And there's another saying too: "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future." So it sounds
Exactly.
like you kept a real group around you supporting you. So that's amazing to hear.
Absolutely.
And let's get right into your experiences. You worked at the Trump International Hotel,
Mm-hmm.
Tower, the Westin Wilmington, the Hotel DuPont, the Ritz
Mm-hmm.
Carlton. I mean, all these top-notch places only one can probably dream of working in. Talk to us about those experiences in your life.
Well, it was all about being in the right place at the right time. So when I enrolled in the Kendall, I only went to class because all my credits were transferable. So didn't have to take math or Spanish or any other curricular kind of classes like that. So I only had to go to lab, which was I think Monday and Fridays. So me being a college student, broke, wanting to make some money, I went to apply for, a job at a restaurant. I was like, well, I can work these days. I can work weekends. I only go to school 2 hours, 3 hours, a day for 2 days out the week. So somebody hired me, and no real work experience in fine dining or anything. But I had the moniker of, well, I'll go to Kendall College. Maybe someone to take a chance on me. So 300 I spent probably over a week with a resume, walking to every restaurant. Everybody said no. And that last day, I had one resume left in my suit jacket pocket. So I'm going into school. I run into the assistant food and beverage director at the Trump International Hotel. And he said, "Hey, you're dressed very nice. Are you front of the house?" I said, "No, I'm actually back of the house." He was there on a was a job fair to recruit front of the house workers to do front of house work for the Trump International, their rooftop restaurant, because it was around that spring and summer. So he was looking for bussers and hosts and servers and bar backs, things like that. But I said, I kind of work in the back. So he's like, "Oh, I think we have a position open in our fine down restaurant. You got 5 minutes to do an interview?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready." So we got to talking, and he said, "Well, the next thing I need you to do is send me a resume." I said, "Oh, no need. I got my last one right here." So that was on a Monday. He called me in for the interview with the chef on Tuesday. I cooked for the chef Wednesday. I was in the kitchen at a 2 Michelin Star restaurant on the J station, not knowing what I was doing, where I was at, but I was making pretty good money, put it like that, as a 20, I think I was 20 at the time. I was getting full benefits, medical, dental, 401k, and making 20 something plus dollars an hour. Couldn't ask for more, and that was my first, I would say, introduction to the fine dining in my culinary arts career. And it all happened by just being persistent and being ready and being prepared, because you never know who you meet or where you meet them or when you meet them. You just got to be ready. So I was ready at that time. Interview well. Shout out to my mother. She's a human resource director. So I kind of had all my interview skills locked and loaded to go. I interviewed well and I cooked well, and I had enough of training at that level, enough fundamentals for them to bring me on, and they can build on that. And that's exactly what they did, and that was a very intricate part of my chef career right there.
And thank you for sharing that, because there's a lot of no's that one receives when looking for a job in whichever industry they're looking for, especially now in this pandemic. And that can be very discouraging. But to hear you just go through that whole journey in regards to all these no's, it's the power of numbers, and you got that one yes, and that's all you needed was that foot in the door.
That's all you need. That's all you need. And I've just been, that formula has worked for me from that day, 2011, all the way up to 2020 now, with my new business and, ventures I have, and hopefully more to come after that. So it only takes one.
Yes, it does. Just one opportunity. And when you're prepared, you're just ready to execute.
Absolutely.
And Chef Danny, talk to us about, there was a moment in the process of you looking for places to work where you were behind in rent. I want people to understand that it's not an overnight success. It takes a process, and there is a process that you went through. Everything wasn't just happening for you. So talk to us about that challenge where everything was up in the air for you, and you didn't know, you were like at a fork in the road. You didn't know what to do with your life. And you were behind in rent. So talk to us about how you got that.
Yeah. So after my tenure at the Trump, I accepted a position as, I think I was junior sous chef at the Ritz-Carlton, their banquet outlet, which was probably their most, the busiest, the most probably profitable outlet at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. So we did that. And, I'm walking home one night. I see this restaurant being built. I'm picking my head in over like the last 4 or 5 months, like, oh, it's coming along. And the chef and owner said, hey, man, you want a job? I can give you the keys to this restaurant. I just want to run the front of the house. You can lead the kitchen. You can design the menu, kind of selling, a 21-year-old chef his dream, essentially. Michigan Avenue, South Loop. It's going to be the hottest new restaurant. Headed up by Chef Danny Bullock. So it's like my dream is coming true, even though I'm not ready for it. He kind of dangled that carrot in front of me, and being young and naive, I did it. So without seeing any contracts, no due diligence, nothing in writing, I just left my job that paid well, that was paying my rent, that was paying my car note, that was paying everything, to go do this job. And worked there for about 90 days and didn't get paid for 90 days. The restaurant ultimately ended up going under before we even opened. And once I did get paid, all my checks bounced. Yeah, about 3 months worth of back pay, not $1 cleared. So with that, obviously, comes a lot of my bills started to accumulate, and I wasn't able to pay them. So my godmother at the time, Joanne Glenn in Chicago, she paid my rent for me up to 6 months. So she paid my whole lease off in one check. So I'm grateful for her. Then once I got caught up with that, my father put a bug in my ear that says, hey, they're opening a new hotel on the riverfront, and it's the Westin. I said, okay, yeah. He said, no, I'm sorry, back. I can get you a job at the Hotel DuPont.
That's right.
So I'm like, okay. But that's what I need. Right. That's what I needed at the time, because I'm very prideful. Most men are, and women can be. And I didn't want to, make that call back to the parents like, hey, I know, you guys were right. And I didn't want to hear, well, I told you so type of thing. But, you take a slice of humble pie, and that'll kind of bring you back down to reality, which what I needed, because I thought I was young, fly. I just graduated. What took someone 3 years, I did it in 1 year. I worked at Trump 4 seasons and Ritz-Carlton, all by the age of 22. I'm about to go be the chef now, even though I know I'm nowhere near ready. But I just thought my ambition kind of took over my appetite, and I bit off more than I can chew. So moved back to Delaware, moved back in with the parents, got my old room back. So I'm like, what am I doing? I go from a, you know, 30 story, 30 floor condo in Chicago back to my parents' house all in 2 weeks. But with that came, I got a position at the Hotel DuPont. Chef David Latimus was the chef there. Similar to how I got the job at Trump. I walked in. One of my friends worked at the valet. He said, "Man, I can get you in right now. You ain't got to wait." I said, "Okay, cool." Met Chef. Chef was like, "Oh, you worked at this place? Cool. Well, I need you to cook me something." I said, "When? Next week?" He said, "No, today." I'm like, "Well, I got a flight to go back to Chicago because I was moving stuff back and forth." He's like, "Well, if you can get back in an hour, cook me something, you got time to make your flight if you really want this job." So I'm like, I'm not doing nothing. I ain't got nothing to lose. So went back home, dusted off my old Delaware technical community college chef jacket. I had a knife kit somewhere. And I just walked in. He gave me a mystery basket. A week later, I was hired.
Wow. It's just great to
Mhm.
hear how you maneuver through that challenge, because I believe hardships and challenges actually humanizes us. And as you can see, everyone's going to have their bump in the road to overcome. And you
Mhm.
just shared that with us.
Yeah.
But how did you keep the right frame of mind when all that pressure was on your shoulders? Because that can be very hard for an ambitious person, especially an entrepreneur, is seeing all these bills pile up. It takes money to make money.
Mhm.
Your dream isn't moving. There's no wheels pushing this thing. So how do you stay, or did you stay in the right frame of mind during that time?
Well, I'm blessed to have a strong, family and friend foundation, and still to this day. So I'm a firm believer, after all the money and the cars and the clothes, all that stuff, that's all you really got is your friends and family. So at that time, that's what they're here for you to, lean on and be vulnerable with. So having my parents, my older brother, my best friends from second, third grade to kind of keep me going. And when I was down, they kept my spirits high, and they just kept telling me like, "Hey, let's take a step back or two to take 40 steps going forward." So I was like, okay. So once I bought into their advice and what they recommended me to do, everything started working out. And I knew these rough times would build my good times when I was able to take all that on. So I think I had to get broken down so I can build a better foundation to stay strong and still deal with anything that comes my way, because feeling that way, seeing those bills and all that accumulate, that's a good motivator for what not to do, and kind of keep you motivated and inspired to never go back to that or never make that decision to go back to that, because back then it was just me. Now I have a 4-year-old son to take care of, so I can't do the same things I used to do anymore, and I wouldn't have gained that information or that experience unless I went through it. So it was definitely staying prayed up, talking to my dad, being in my Bible, and just know like, man, if I get through this, if I make it through, I'll be fine. I'll be just fine.
And once broken and rebuilding that foundation stays strong. And
Absolutely.
it's kind of like you said, once you have a strong foundation, you just keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so now let's talk about your style of cooking. Does Chef Danny have a style of cooking? Having been working at all these different restaurants, did you kind of hone into your own identity as a culinary
Mhm.
artist?
Yes. So I would say the Chef Danny cuisine or type of food I cook is modern American with international techniques and influences, because I had the opportunity to go overseas, and I went to 15 different countries in 6 months, and I ate and cooked, basically all over the world. So that's a part that's in my game, in my technique, in my repertoire per se. But classically trained chef from working in a lot of fine dining restaurants. But being a personal chef, you kind of got to be a chameleon. One night your client may want steakhouse flair, and the next night they may want Latino flair, or the next night they may want French food. So you got to have a laundry list of bags to tap into to execute a good dish at any given time on any given night.
And let's get right into that. You just mentioned briefly about going overseas. I think this part is the most exciting part for me because not many people get to travel where you've been. You flew all the way out to Israel,
Right.
working for a professional athlete out there, and you visited 15 countries. Let's get into this part of your life. What actually made you go from being the professional Danny, working at all of these high-end restaurants,
Mm.
to saying there's more to me? Yes, I succeeded at such a young age, but I feel like I can do this on my own and go private in the private sector and still be just as successful or even more. Talk to us about that.
Well, I kind of felt like I was reaching my ceiling in corporate. I was getting a lot of, a lot of accolades. I won like Rising Star Chef in Delaware. Um, I got promoted like 4 or 5 times in corporate. So it was kind of like all these things I wanted to do. I did them. Now it was like, okay, what next? I wasn't complacent or satisfied with making my name in the shadow of a bigger name or a bigger hospitality name like Trump or Four Seasons, Ritz Carlton, Hotel DuPont. I was um, kind of setting a trend for what my legacy would be. Like, oh, I was the chef at this place. Then I went to that place. I wanted to have my own name and my own name and lights, and I wanted all the things that I was help doing for other brands. That same amount of energy and time, why not put it into my brand? So I made the decision. I was like, all right, in 3 months, I'm gonna save. Goes back to the other store. I'm gonna save 6 months worth of expenses already because I'm gonna take a leap of faith and I'm not going back. Well, I'm at least try it for 6 months. And at that time, my son was just born. So imagine having a brand new, baby boy,
A lot of
and
expenses.
exactly, and leaving all your safety net stuff behind just to follow your dream. So I did that, and literally, my last day was on probably a Friday. A good friend of mine who plays professional basketball, Jeremy Pargo, a childhood friend of mine from Chicago, reached out to him and said, "Hey man, how you been? Good, man. I just quit my job. I just got incorporated LLC. If you ever need anything, it'll be a good starting point for me to even cook for you on camera or get some exposure that way. And I'll do it for free. I just want the exposure." Well, he was like, "Well, man, it's funny you say that because I'm working out now and I got a tryout coming. And if I do good, I can go overseas. So you want to come to Miami tomorrow and we can get started tomorrow?" I'm like, yeah. So that Monday, he put me on a flight. Then from there, we went overseas, and I've been up to maybe since this past August. I was with him for 2 years, and we went to Jerusalem. We went to Tel Aviv. I was his day-to-day chef: breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. A pre-game meal, post-game meal, all those things for the last 2 years. So, like I said, I just happened to be ready and in the right place at the right time, and coming across the right people. So, always stay prepared. It was once in a lifetime opportunity to go over there, see the world, visit all these countries, and kind of be in places that I've always read about and seen on TV and things like that. And to actually go over there and be in it was a dream come true.
And you've met so many diverse people while traveling to these 15 different countries, and you're
Hmm.
exposed to different types of food. So, how did all this traveling impact you as a culinary artist and give you that international flair?
Well, more so affected me as a person. I'm a people person, so I think food, music, and libation are the world's language. So if you have those three factors, you could be all right in any parts of the world. So I just bought it into the culture. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be over here for 13 months. straight. So I need to be one with, my surroundings and really buy into, okay, this is gonna be my life for 1 year. So just buy in, and hopefully the time will pass. And with that, met so many good people, different culture exchanges from friends I've met in Rome and Milan. I've been to Barcelona. I've been to Athens, Santorini, Paris, London, Cyprus, Morocco, a few other places I can't remember, but those are probably my favorite. But yeah,
All I can envision right now is your passport, just stamp, 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 stamp.
oh yeah, it's I think I got like one page left, so time for a new one.
So let's get to the other layer, the other part of Chef Danny. One thing I admire so much about you is that you don't just stay like a cookie cutter into one part of the industry, the restaurant industry. You could have
Mhm.
stayed a chef, and that could have been your one goal and end goal, and you could have been satisfied with that as a private chef. But you
Mhm.
stepped out of your zone and became a bourbon owner. Before we get to that, I want to talk about the distillery that you got some education from while you were in Israel. So talk to us about
Right.
that connection and how that actually helped to educate you into your next step as an entrepreneur.
Right. So I'd say I was about 90 days away from, oh no, probably about 6 months away from coming home. So at that point it's like, man, this 6 months is going by slow. I need something to do. And every night after I finish cooking, I used to have a nice cigar, some good scotch, and some good music just to decompress. So I'm like, man, I'm getting a lot of momentum from being overseas. My Instagram is growing. The brand is starting to do some numbers because everybody's like, oh, you cook for this person and you're overseas with this person and all these things. So I knew I kind of had people's eye, like he's doing some good things. So I knew when I came back to Chicago, I had to keep the momentum going with something that fit well with me and what was a necessity at that time in the city of Chicago. So I was like, should I do a restaurant? That's always been the dream, but doesn't make sense to do one right now. Probably not. Then I was like, okay, I could do a food truck. Well, those cost as much as restaurants now, so I'm like, nah. And once again, those been done before. I want to do something that can make history and kind of be the first one to open those doors for many other people to follow behind me. So I was like, well, all my, idols and, people that influence me, they've always associated themselves with a spirit brand, whether it be Jay-Z or P. Diddy or Lucky Luciano or then, all these, historical figures that
Rock
I've.
came out with one too.
Exactly. So yeah, The Rock is, all the guys I look up to, they associate themselves with a spirit brand because that's probably outside of their main passion. That's probably their most um, lucrative income. So I was like, okay, so I do a vodka. Don't really drink vodka like that. It's kind of my college days. Tequila is a non-domestic spirit, so I would have to get a license to do all that, stuff with custom and things. I didn't want to do anything with that. So I was like, man, what can I make that's homegrown? And bourbons and whiskeys was popped up. So I literally just Googled how to start your own brand. And from there, it was 6 months of getting licenses, getting permits and things like that. Then I was lucky to meet a friend of mine, name is Tal Tolliver, um, at the Milk and Honey Distillery in Tel Aviv, Israel. He was a big fan of the team I cooked for, so got him some tickets, got him a few autographs, and he opened up the distillery for me. And he just took me to school. He taught me about this distilling process, the grains, the barreling, the aging, the bottling. Just basically, I got a crash course in bourbon in 6 months. Then I was his guest at International Whiskey Fest in Tel Aviv, Israel. So over 200 brands of bourbons, whiskeys, and Scotch companies were there. So I met a lot of A lot of people through that. Then from there, I was like, okay, now I got to come up with a name for this. Okay, we got everything, how to get the permit, um, kind of like which direction you want to go. Either you want to spend $4 or $5 million on opening your own distillery and waiting 4 years to see if it's worth even selling, or you can do partnerships with a lot of distilleries that already have 5-year age stuff, 6-year age stuff. Then you take it and make it your own from there. So that's what I did. Then I was still stuck on this name. Like, okay, I'm doing all the analytical thing, but I don't know what to call it yet. So I went through over 100 names, and I was like, no, I don't like it, don't like it. So my dad was like, well, just call it Daniel. I'm like, that doesn't sound too cool. He was like, well, call it Daniel Bullock. I'm like, nah, still not. Well, call it Bullock Bourbon. I was like, you sure you want that, Reverend Bullock? So he was like, yeah, you're right. Let's not do that. So I was like, okay, well, our last name does sound, it's Sandra Bullock and this. It's like, okay, but what does our last name actually mean? So a Bullock translates in any language to a young bull or a baby bull or something like that. And I'm the youngest in my immediate family. I've always been that. My older brothers, friends always call me Little Bullock, or that's Ben's younger brother, or that's Debbie's youngest son, or that's Rev's youngest this, or that's Young Bullock. So nobody, like, since when I can remember, nobody actually called me Daniel or Danny or Dan or anything. I was always the youngest Bullock. So I was like, haha, childhood nickname. It's my name. Let's go with it. We're gonna call it Young Bull. I was like, but it's like I own something, but it's still not. I like it, but I don't love it. So I just switched it around and called it Bull Young, and we got Bull Young Bourbon. Yep. So yeah, we got that trademarked and copywritten and own all the content, all that stuff. So yeah.
And how long did it take you to launch the Bull Young Bourbon? Because some people want to start a business and they feel like, or they put more pressure on them, thinking that everything has to be done right away, get the LLC, get the business license, and hurry up and let's launch it, put the website together. You took your time though, as
Absolutely.
how
I was.
distillery.
It took about, since I didn't bring on until probably a month or two before we launched. I didn't take on any investors. So all the money that I made overseas, I probably took 75% of a year's salary to start a new business. So basically what I did is I took however much I've ever made in corporate, I lived off that, and I put the rest into a new business venture, something that I believed in, something I funded myself. I own it today 100%. I own all the trademark stuff. I own the patent
I was
to
gonna
the
say,
actual.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I own the patent to the actual blend of bourbon that I use. So any the distillery that makes mine, if someone wants to replicate that, they have to come to me. So I kind of took the marathon approach, not the sprint. And it probably took about 2 years from the time I came up with the idea to August 22nd of 2020 that we launched it.
And what would you say your bourbon drink tastes like? I mean, just listening to all this and all the knowledge and education you had in the back end, and now you finally have a product that you put together.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that final part where it became a drink in your hand. You got to share the experience with friends and family,
Mm-hmm.
and taste testing before it hits public. What was some
Mm-hmm.
of the feedback you were getting? What's it taste like?
So it's aged 4 years, 8 months, and bottled and distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. That's probably about 3 hours outside of Chicago. People get this misconception that bourbon only tastes the best if it's made in Kentucky or Tennessee or things like that. That's somewhat true, but not completely true. People don't know Indiana produces some of the best corn, which is a key ingredient in bourbon and whiskey. Um, Bourbon federal regulations are it has to be made with at least 51% corn, and 49% has to be between malted barley and rye. Those three ingredients, made in the U.S., not in Kentucky. It just has to be made in the U.S. Aged minimum 2 years in a brand new charred white oak barrel, and yeah, then that's considered bourbon. Any additive flavoring or coloring, and other barrel usage other than a brand new charred oak barrel is now considered a whiskey. So with mine, if you're a bourbon drinker, I kind of break down the nuances and all the things that make mine. So we're pretty high in corn, which makes it very, very approachable for it to be a man's drink, but gentle enough for a woman to enjoy too. So we have just a slight bit of smoke from the rye, which is at 36%, which kind of gives you that umami flavor, or that unconscious, like, what is that kind of mysterious flavor. Then the malted barley is kind of like the middle child, which is like the glue to hold all those things together. Like I said, age 4 years, 8 months. Very smooth, very fragrant, um, and it should leave you to have more than one sip. It's very approachable. The with bourbon, it's meant to be, consumed and enjoyed over a period of time, over a conversation, or a gathering, or over a nice cigar, or your favorite record. You just can't do straight shots of bourbon. I mean, some people do, but what mine is definitely, you want to take your time with it and enjoy it, because the longer it sits in the cup, the more the aromatics bloom, all the nuances and layers and flavors develop as you take it from out the bottle into the glass, and enjoy it that way.
And Danny, talk to us a little bit about, so being a chef at all these different restaurants, there is some diversity there, but being an owner of your own bourbon drink as a young African American male is not something that you see as openly or happening often in this industry.
Mhm.
So the fact that you've done this at such a young age, what are some of your thoughts or sentiments in regards to making this huge accomplishment for yourself?
I would say it still doesn't feel real to me today. I mean, even though all the hard work that we did to get it launched, and still doesn't feel real. So I didn't, before I got into this, I wanted to make history. So I'm happy to say I'm the first chef in the world of any ethnicity, any age, anything to ever have a bourbon brand. A lot of chefs endorse and maybe have ownership, but I'm the first one of my kind, or of any kind, to own it, launch it, fund it, release it, all of that. I just happen to be African American. I just happen to be 30 years old, from Chicago, and all these other things that come with it. So I still don't know what I did. A lot of people keep trying to remind me, like, man, you need to celebrate more. I'm like, I don't care, and it's not to be cocky or anything. It's just, it's very surreal. So I don't know yet, until maybe those royalty checks start coming in a couple months. And but yeah, I'm just trying to stay focused. I'm never complacent. I think this step forward allows me to bring in a lot of my friends that are in the entrepreneur circuit, whether it be in fashion. I got friends in music. I got friends in real estate. I got friends in all forms of music. One of my best friends, he's a Grammy award-winning, orchestra composer. So me and him got some stuff going on. I got my creative team that does all my visual and audio stuff. We're about to film a short movie for this, so it's like me. I kind of wanted to be the one to kind of break into the industry, and now do collabs with all my friends and family, so we can show the world that us millennials, 30 and between the ages of 30 and 40, we can do our own stuff without any help. If we just come together, we'll have enough to do what we want to do.
And you know what I'm hearing too, as you're explaining to us the process you've been through and the journey that you have gone through just to get all these accomplishments, is that
Mhm.
now as a chef and as a bourbon owner, you can pair the two together. Like, when you go to restaurants and they say, oh, this cuisine pairs nicely with this drink. Now you
Mhm.
have the two of them together. So how awesome is that?
I think with the bourbon, me being a chef, I kind of made it. I developed it off my chef, intellect and experiences. We probably changed it at least 50 times. And, only having 6 months of bourbon knowledge, I just went with my strengths. It's like, yeah, this is too tart. Can we add a little bit more of this? Yeah, we can do that. Okay, cool. And it was just how I would adjust a sauce or a vinaigrette or a puree or anything was the same way I did with the whiskey. So it's definitely built to be paired with food. We have the Chef Danny Bullock Bull Young Bourbon, pop-up series and a tour that we're going to do once the world opens back up to do different pop-up dinners, small intimate stuff, whatever the compliances of COVID would allow us to do. So it something in Delaware is coming very soon, along with another pop-up retail shop for Bull Young Bourbon to be purchased. And if you want it signed, I guess I'll do it, no problem. And anything like that. So between Chicago and Delaware, those are my two heaviest markets right now. So in the month of October I'll be very visible with myself and along with my brand as well.
And I was just going to ask, like, how have you been able to maintain during the pandemic as a private chef?
Business has been good because a lot
Everybody,
of restaurants that closed, people had plans for birthday dinners and anniversaries and sweet 16s and engagement parties, and your favorite restaurant is closed. So what I do for, kind of like my bread and butter was, I do a lot of in-home private dining, guests from 2 to about 12. So Airbnbs were calling me to do things that they were offering, like, hey, I got a group coming in. You want to be the chef for it? Absolutely. I've been doing that the last 2 years. Or people taking vacations that have timeshares, in Jamaica and all these places. I was able to now, since I had all the time on my hands, I was able to still stay employed, still be self-employed. So I think um, my business kind of actually benefited from it because it forced everyone to get back to smaller things, and that's kind of what I strive in. I can do the big number stuff. I've done weddings over 200, but that small, intimate, multiple course plating, concentrating on plating and technique and timing is right up my wheelhouse. What I've done my whole career. So now to take everything I've learned from the professional kitchen into your kitchen is absolutely a good experience. And if you would like that, please hit me up at Chef Danny Bullock Inc. and book your next dinner with me. I travel and my passport is active.
yes, and you travel often. And my next question here, Chef Danny, is really
Mhm.
on how do you manage it all as an entrepreneur, a chef, and you're also a father. So
Mhm.
talk to us about how you're able to multitask and still make your dreams work, and being a father and being present in your child's life.
Communication, communication, communication. So I've been blessed. My best friend is also, the mother of my son. So we've known each other for fourth grade. So having that partner in your life to kind of delegate and kind of organize stuff for me that I really not too good at. She's able to kind of she sacrificed a lot for me so I can pursue my dreams at that time. I don't think too many people with a newborn baby with their partner at the time with a great job that all these co-pays, all these things would even allow me to leave all that on the table so I can do this at that time. So big shout out to her, and just being very transparent and we're in a good groove now. At any given time, I can get a call to go overseas for 6 months, and she'll be okay. So we've had a lot of ups and downs, but we're starting to get into a good groove now. My parents are, they're both semi-retired, so they always want to help out. And yeah, you can bring them for a month and just drop them off. Cool, that works. My brother, he's a big help with what I have going on. He still gives me good advice. So yeah, like I said, friends and family, they help out a lot. And if they want to see you be successful, they'll do anything they can to. Well, they've done everything they can to help me out and kind of step in and take over while I wasn't present, while I was able to do what I dreamt of doing. So Yeah. Yeah.
And it takes a strong support group, and I'm so proud that you're able to be transparent. And we cannot leave this talk show without mentioning your dad, Pastor Christopher Bullock, your mother, Dr. Debbie Strickland Bullock, and your
Hmm.
brother Benjamin Bullock. Talk to us about just being a pastor's kid. Like, did you get questions about that growing up, and if that would have made you be raised differently, or did faith play a big role in your life? Or how was it being a pastor's child?
I loved it. I still love it today because my dad still has this dream that I will be a pastor one day. But yeah, I haven't got that call yet. But I think we use similar nuances and our respective career paths. There's a lot of similarity as well. So I've always seen, because he's a people person, so I would see him interact with members of the church or people out on the street or anything like that. And good conversation and being polite goes a long way. So I use that same method and techniques in my line of work. He's kind of an entrepreneur. Kind of, I've seen him make his own schedule. I've seen him delegate large groups of people, and I've seen him manage multiple personalities. So okay, it may not be in a church, but similar to what I do in the kitchen. So anytime I needed, manager advice or CEO advice or anything, I never hesitated to call him. This reputation of pastors' kids are, different, or we're a little on the wild side. Kind of true, but not necessarily for me or my brother. But we were raised. That's his lane. And my mother, my grandfather was a pastor too. So both of them grew up in church, and me and my brother were raised in church. But they always let us do what we were called to do. Whether my brother he's in the media circuit. He does audio and camera work and directing, and that's his lane. Me, I chose to do culinary arts and poetry and sports, and I was never ever forced to be the heir of the throne to my dad, even though I could do it. I'm very tapped into my spirituality, and watching a man do it at that level for 30 years, I can get up there and do something if need be. So it's probably like a every blue moon type of thing, but I have delivered a word from the word, as he would say, a few times in church. And like I said, I played drums in church. So my mom, she was the music one. So yeah, so they kind of got their fix with what they wanted me to do, but not all the way. So it's I still lean on them on them for everything. Not everything. If I ever need anything, till this day, whether from when I was 3 all the way up to when I'm 30. So I still, just in a different space, but similar, very similar.
Such a beautiful story, Chef Danny. And share with us what's next for you. You've been casted by Food Network. Talk to us a little bit about that experience.
Yes, so I just got the good news. I will be one of the contestants on the Supermarket Stakeout Season 3 on the Food Network. I'm flying to Los Angeles on the 27th. It's a week worth of filming and a lot of production stuff that I'm excited to do. I've kind of been watching the Food Network for the last 20 years, and I'm feeling pretty confident in my abilities on how to perform in any scenario. I got 20 years of experience. I'm not shy in front of the camera, and the concept of the show is very, very interesting. And I think I'll do well. So I'm not sure when it will actually air, but we'll talk again and double back when I get all those details. And yeah, I'm excited. Over 100 million people watch it, so it'll be a good platform for me to plug myself, the whiskey, and all these other things I got going on.
So, Chef Danny, give us some insight or some advice for that young man or woman who is in Wilmington, Delaware. There's this old saying here, Wilmington, Delaware is a place to be somebody. And a lot of people used to laugh when they heard that because it's like nobody comes out of Delaware. But here you are, a graduate from Brandywine High School. You've been very successful at such a young age. for that young person who is going into the culinary arts industry from Wilmington, Delaware, with big hopes and aspirations to kind of be where you're at and walk in those shoes, what piece of advice could you share with them?
I would say cook, 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 and keep cooking, and always have your imagination for what you want to do working as well. So learn and take what you learn. Maybe you may not be able to use it at wherever you're at now, but still try to learn as much as you can. Whether it be from the dishwasher taught me a lot of stuff. The prep cook taught me a lot of stuff. The pastry. So while you're in school or at your first job, just be a sponge from everybody. Even take notes of the front of the house on why did they do this, or go by the bar, see how he makes drinks. Just be a sponge of all everything that's around you for at a minimum at least 2 years. I'm a firm believer that you can't work somewhere 3 months and like, okay, I've learned all I can, then you leave. Like, no, find a restaurant that you want to work at. Find a country club where you want to work at. Go eat there before you want to apply there. All these things, kind of buy into the system. Um, a few restaurants or chefs that are still in Delaware that I would recommend, whether hitting up on Facebook or actually dining at their place of business. I would say Dwayne Callip. He's the executive chef at Lafia Bistro in Wilmington, Delaware. I think it's on 5th and Market, I believe so. But great chef, taught me a lot, still teaches me a lot. I would definitely recommend going there. He's very approachable. If you go in and eat and say, hey, chef, I'm a culinary student or I'm working at such and such, he'll put you in the right direction. And, when you're not cooking, you still are a chef. So what I did, I always read books and I YouTubed everything, everything. I still got a book at home. I wrote out 400 things that I wanted to learn how to do. And I still haven't got through that yet. And I've been cooking since 12 or 13. So you're never going to master everything, but you should master the things that you want to master and the things that you should master to be successful in this industry. In this industry, excuse me. But yeah, just be a sponge and just dive into it. And what you put into it is exactly what you get out of it. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Chef Danny, for your time today. It's been very inspirational just to hear your journey, to hear how you went through those challenges, every bump in the road you jumped, you successfully fulfilled your dreams and aspirations at such a young age. Very inspirational for others. And I just like to say thank you so much for your time.
Anytime, Yesenia. Anytime you need something, just let me know. Thank you for having me again. It's been a long time coming. I've always admired what you did around the city. We have a lot of mutual friends, and when I told them I was doing this, they said that's a good move. So yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on you and all the good things you have going on in the city of Wilmington. And if you ever need anything from me or from my brand or anything you need me to do, don't hesitate to call, and I'll be there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching this episode of In Focus with special guest Danny Chef Bullock. Be sure to stay connected to WITN 22 by following us at WITN 22 Wilm on Facebook and subscribing to us on YouTube at WITN Channel 22. It's been an honor. We have more special guests coming up, so please stay tuned. I've been your host, Yesenia Taveras. Thank you so much for watching.